Thanks for staying on. It's Weekend Prime. This is Newsroom Africa, channel 405, where we continue with our conversation with the Minister Lindiwe Zulu, the Minister of the National Department of Social Development, and of course, outlining for us what it is that they are going to be doing, along with the provinces, the three arms of government, as she puts it, as well as the agencies, including the National Development Agency, in this portfolio approach of making sure that they don't just issue out grants, but they bring in a component of sustainable livelihoods. Now, before the break, I mentioned that we have one of these very important components to social work. It's the social workers themselves and why they're not being absorbed into doing work for the department. I think there is a large number of graduates, Minister, over 5,000 of them that we're speaking of at this particular point, who are receiving scholarships, but they are unemployed. What's the plan to absorb them into the national department?
I think we need to just be a bit creative in that space and think out of the box, because when you train as a department, we train them and then they're sitting at home. That's an indictment, actually. And I think we've decided that what we want to do is, instead of taking more, let us take the ones that are there and make sure that they are employed and use that budget to make sure that they are employed. But also we're taking this to the provinces, because remember, again, I started by saying that we are three spheres of government and one government. So we have to make sure that speaking to the MECs and the departments of social development at a local level, at a provincial level, we need them to absorb them. We need to give them that the budget we need to give to them, because then they'll be able to even manage them properly. Going forward, I think working together with the private sector, I keep going back to the private sector because I think we need to tap in there. We need to deal with this whole issue of so-called trust deficit between ourselves and the private sector, because there shouldn't be trust deficit here. Firstly, as government, obviously, we must make sure that our policies are things that people can believe in, and we must stick to that. And so the absorption of these social workers is now going to happen. They will be employed, and we're not going to take any new intakes until these ones are properly employed. But the NDP itself tells us that we need thousands of social workers, because the social ills that you were talking about earlier on, of drugs, they need social workers. You know, you can imagine in troubled schools, you find that there's only one social worker. How does one social worker deal with so many students? But also we've got social workers in other departments, such as the police, for instance. You find that there are social workers there. We just need to think differently, pull this together and see how is it that we can empower the communities, because my view is that street by street, there should be social workers. School by school, there should be social workers. In prisons, everywhere, there's got to be social workers. We should have more social workers than we even have the police, if I may say, because they start killing it right there, where all these social ills begin. But also we need government to also just use some of the money from the ill-gotten money that's out there, use it also, this money, to assist us in ensuring that we employ that money back to the communities. I am very much committed to ensuring that we get more social workers. And if we talk about social development being something that needs to help us by individual, it means teachers alone cannot do the job. Families on their own cannot do the job. So we need more and more social workers.
Minister, just quickly, and by the way, I'm thoroughly encouraged by your approach of wanting to tap into the private sector. I think that we have so much potential there that we can. So I'm really, really encouraged by that approach. You talk of social workers, and clearly when we talk of social workers, we're speaking about the professionally, academically trained individuals. But is there a thought of using people that are social trustees, as it were, people that are trusted in society, izango, priests, rabbis, those kinds of people that are perhaps not socially, academically trained in social work, as it were, but enjoy the trust of communities, enjoy the trust in pushing some of the agendas of of social development?
I'm happy to hear you say that, because in the church where we were today in Everton, one of the things that we agreed upon is to partner with the churches. Partnering with the churches, every Sunday, people go into church, the messaging must go through the churches. And the churches, people who go to the churches, you have the bishops, you have the women mañanos, you have those people, they are very organized. And so we agreed today, together with Thabo Mzobe, the CEO of NDA, that let's find a way of working with these churches because they are on the ground. Let's empower them with what we have from a financial muscle or from training or anything of that sort. Let's work with them. So we are going to be going out there to different churches, those that are willing to listen to us, not the other churches that do other things. I'm talking about churches that have an interest in God's people, churches that really deal with the societal problems. We will partner with churches, just like we partner with NGOs. Among the NGOs and NPOs, those are the people also we need to make sure that we help them in the appreciation of what is social work, what do we do? And I like the fact that you're talking about not just the academically trained social workers, because some of the problems will be solved by Umama Wesondo, who walks there every day. I mean, the days of when we were children and parents would tell our parents or grandparents of the bad things we were doing somewhere are gone, unfortunately for us. But we can still bring that back, because they say it takes a village to raise a child, and that's for real. But we're losing it a bit because we are becoming too self-centered with ourselves and not looking around us. We would love to call on partners to partner with us.
Minister, you spoke just before the break about one of the things that needs to be done is that which was ugly, that which was unsavory in the department needs to be done away with. One of the big things that was a big talking point perhaps in the previous administration, was the fact that there was a company called CPS that was involved in the distribution of grants. A relationship with the department that was illegal, quite frankly, is if we understood the conversation at the time. What has happened with CPS? And I ask this question because I know that you are very, very aware of the fact that part of the mandate of SASSA is to empower companies that are South African and preferably black, especially in business deals that have a huge revenue potential for that business. CPS was neither black, neither was it South African. What's happened to CPS?
Well, I'm sure you'll be aware that recently there was a judgment against CPS, and they have to pay back some of that money. There are litigations that are ongoing, which I think we must deal with and really, really sever the ties with them and find our own local systems.
It was not our greatest moment, that, eh?
It wasn't our greatest moment, believe me, because if you think of how much money went to them, how much they actually profited out of this. I'm not saying that business doesn't want profit. There's no business that wants to do business without profit. Even if it's black, it will want to do the profit. But we are cutting our ties with them through SASSA. Obviously, there are ongoing discussions, but there are cases that are still ongoing, litigations that are ongoing. My view is that we need to speed up that process and cut our ties with them. And here is an opportunity then for this transformation that I keep talking about. Transformation is about ensuring that we empower those black companies that were left out of the system. And all I would want to say is that there's enough creativity in our country, even from a point of technology, because it's also about technology. It's also about efficiency, because when this money goes out, the money that's not being distributed through the post office, the money that has to be paid cash, it has to be protected. It's very expensive. And then you've got thugs lying around also waiting for that. So whoever comes in here, we must make sure that it will be people that are going to be able to do the same job that CPS was doing, but do it in the best way, but empowering our people.
Well, look at us. We didn't even get to issues of what you just touched on. Fraud, a lot of fraud that's happening there in your department. We won't be able to get there. We don't have time. Know your NPO. That's one of the things that we wanted to talk about. But I also believe there is a presidential social sector summit that is on the way. And I think key to all of this, how we take care of our old. And that is a very important one as well. We've seen some things that have been happening in our hospitals and how the elderly are being treated. So I suppose, Minister, by that I'm saying I'm inviting you back again. This is home, as you can see. We've got this display here all for you. I think we would need to have you back here with us to be able to outline that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And the elderly are being abused. I've met some of them who are abused. We've got to have Ubuntu as people. You don't have to be hungry for you to go and abuse an elderly and take their SASSA card and take their PIN and not give them nothing. They are always willing to help. They are the ones actually who are taking care of the majority of the children. So I'd love to come back to have a conversation about that, because it's another topic that South Africa needs to wake up to.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Much appreciated. Aubrey Masango.
Thank you, my brother.
My brother
It was nice talking to the minister.
Absolutely.
To get the minister in more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. He's back again, Aubrey, next week here on Newsroom Africa. It's Newsroom Channel 405. When we come back, I'll update you on what's happening in terms of your headlines. Stay with us. This is Weekend Prime. We're back in a moment.